Welcome to all of you. My name is Arto Vaughn. I'm the Executive Director of Project Save Photograph Archives. We're based in the Boston area in Massachusetts. And so for today's event, we're so pleased. I'm very, very happy to have Nazik Armenakyan with us today. The way the event is going to be structured today is I'll say a few words about what we do at Project Save. We have a lot of people registered who I think might not be too familiar with what Project Save does. So I'll talk very briefly about that and about this series that we started about a month or two ago. And then I'll introduce Nazik Armenakyan, our guest for today, and she will then take the floor virtually and share her work and tell us about her background and her story as a photographer and her time in Armenia, especially in these last number of years, which have been and continue to be quite challenging for that part of the world. So after about 25-30 minutes, then we'll have a conversation with Nazik and I'll be moderating questions. And I hope that we have I am very sure that we're going to have a great conversation. So as I said, I'm the Executive Director of Project Save Photograph Archives. So just a little bit about what we do. Project Save was founded in 1975 in New York City. By our founder and president, Ruth Tomasyan. So we're nearly 50 years old now. And at this point, what started as Ruth's kind of quite a pioneering vision that Ruth had back then as someone who was absolutely obsessed and in love with photography and with storytelling. And as someone who is half Armenian, whose family goes back many, many generations in the United States, she had this great drive to tell the story of the Armenian experience through photography. So what started as that kind of one person's obsessive drive has now turned almost, now 47 years later, to an archive unlike any other archive. We have now over 60,000 hard copy photographs that cover everything from Armenians in Cuba to the former Soviet Republic of Armenia to current independent Armenia to Cyprus to Fresno, California to Argentina. So and our photographs cover everything from the 19th century up until yesterday. So we are not focused on any specific topic or any specific timeline or historical quality. What we're focused on is documenting through photographs the Armenian global experience. I'm very thrilled that Ruth has passed the torch on to me. It's a big honor for me. I welcome you all, and I'm glad that through this event, Conversations on Photography that we started last month, this is a living archive. My vision and my team's vision at Project Save is that we are not here to work in a bubble and to only welcome researchers once in a while. This is a living archive of incredible photographs, and that's such a universal language. It's even though our focus is on the global Armenian experience, but at the end of the day, it's an immense photography archive. So our goal is to champion photography, the power and the beauty of photography. And so part of that, to do that, this series was started. And what we're going to be doing about once a month is inviting amazing people like Nazik, some of whom are photographers, working photographers like her, some of whom might be artists, some of them might be researchers, some of them are curators, archivists, librarians, to basically talk about just the power and the universal language of photography and at the same time, the importance of archives and preservation, and why that matters. So with that, I'm going to introduce Nazik Armenakyan and then turn it over to her. Nazik Armenakyan is a documentary photographer, and she's the co-founder of 4Plus, which was founded in 2012. It's a photography center and collective of female photographers. And the purpose of which is to champion photography in Armenia and to strengthen the kind of teaching, the practice of it in Armenia and in that region. In 2005, she studied photography in Armenia at the Caucasus Media Institute under Ruben Magasaryan. For 3 years during that time, she worked as a photojournalist for Armen Press. She's also worked for Yerevan and Forum magazines and has collaborated with Reuters, the news agency. In 2009, she won the Grand Prix Award and First Place Award at the Karl Bula International Photo Contest for a project she had done called Survivors. She was also the recipient of a fellowship in 2011, the Human Rights and Photography Fellowship from the Magnum Foundation, which is an amazing photography institution. From 2009 to 2016, she was a photographer for ArmeniaNow.com. And she's participated in many local and international group exhibits in Armenia, the United States, China, Hong Kong, and elsewhere. Starting in 2007, she started a number of long-term research projects that were later developed into books. The first one is called Survivors, 2005 to 2015. It's a photographic narrative about the Armenian genocide. The other project is called The Stamp of Loneliness, 2010 to 2013. And that is about members of Yerevan's closed transgender community. Her photographs have been published in the New York Times, Der Spiegel, Le Monde, Politiken, WOZ magazine, the Funambulist magazine, EurasiaNet, and other international publications. So with that, I also just personally, I want to say how excited I am that she's joining us today. I was fortunate enough to live and work in Armenia for about 7 years. And for me, I always noticed that 4Plus was and is one of the most interesting and wonderful initiatives that's happening in Armenia. So I'm especially grateful to Nazik. So Nazik, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone again. Thank you, Arto, for this opportunity, you especially, and Project Safe. I'm very happy and glad to share today my personal experience, to share with you also what we are doing with 4Plus. So I'm going to share my screen, but you have to allow me. Okay, we have to continue that because it said that. Okay, now it's okay.
Great.
Yeah. So. As Arto mentioned, I started my photography career very early in 2002. In 2001, by chance, I was working at the studio. And then in 2002, I joined Armen Press, which is news agency. And this was very challenging time for me because I was photographing governmental things, many events, but this gave me opportunity to be more focused and to understand the situation very quickly. And I was photographing like so many rallies, meetings, events, political situations. Also, I loved to walk a lot in the Yerevan street and just photograph some situations. But in 2004, from 2004 to 2006, there was a photojournalism course organized by WordPress Photo at the Caucasus Media Institute in Yerevan. And the mentor was Ruben Mangasaryan, who is highly regarded photojournalist. And during this class, we were doing like different assignments. And there was one assignment to make a portrait which will show a relationship. When I met this old woman, she was already 100 years old, and she was one of the Armenian genocide survivors. And I really wanted to see how she looked at the young time, and I asked her daughters to bring the photo of her young time. In this photograph, Remela brings the photo of her 20 years old. And this one single photograph became a concept and beginning of the long-term project, which I called Survivors. After 2 years, I started to travel around Armenia and meet more people, more survivors, and photograph them. Actually, in the beginning, I didn't realize that how much is important this photographing and collecting the personal stories and memories of these people. And by the year I understood more, I realized more, and I also understood that maybe these photographs are the last pictures of them. And sometimes I met, for example, the survivor Ashkan Avedisyan already passed away. So during all these years, I was always asking myself what kind of photographer I am and what I want to do with my photography. Survivors project grew very intuitively, and during this project I understood that I really like working in a long time and to do research, to open the subject from the different directions, and also it gives time to think how to bring this subject to public. And in 2010, I was simply interested about LGBT community, and I was wondering who are these people, if they are in Armenia or not. And I met very close transgender community who were mostly engaged in sex work. So this was the most challenging and controversial subject because I knew that people usually don't want to hear about this kind of subjects in Armenia, and they easily say that there is no such thing. But during 4 years, I built a really good relationship with these people, and I get very deep access and could photograph different situations in their homes and everywhere. So these two projects allowed me to understand that photography is really my way of talking, and it allowed me to raise about some issues, some stories, and I can't do this in different way. I can't do only showing the photographs, but also I understood that there are some subjects that it is not possible to photograph. In 2014, one of my friends told me that, there are many women in Armenia that are living with HIV. The first thing that I heard, it was shock. I didn't understand what about this, because usually this is really connected with the not ordinary people. So he told me that these are very ordinary women from very traditional families. And the story is that many Armenian men spend large part of year in abroad, working there, like labor migrants in Russia. And after they return, and after their wives get pregnant and get tested, they realize that they are infected by HIV from their husbands. So from 2014 to 2019, I was trying everything. First of all, I did a lot of researches. I went to the organizations, meet people, meet women. Here, I heard a lot of very, very sad stories from them. I was attending their closed meetings. And all that time I was thinking how I'm going to photograph this woman, because none of them wanted to be identified, to be shown their faces, their identity. And I tried to photograph in different way that from their bags, some details, but nothing could work. And this was really challenging time for me, because I understood also that the way that I was working is not working this time anymore. So what I decided to do, the idea that came to me in late 2019, that I have to create very safe space where I can photograph this woman and no one will recognize them. I used these all limitations, and I rent a very small studio and old medium format camera. But also their personal stories gave me some space for another researches, and I understood that the whole subject is not about only HIV. This is about the shame, about Armenian society, about the traditions, the education. So I read a lot about traditional things, how traditions affected on women's reality. And then I started to build the project, and I understand that it should be staged. This was something that is really opposite what I did before, because I'm a documentary photographer, and during my whole career, I was just following the events, the people, and build my stories by just following and taking pictures, and then editing and making the work for the presentation, for bringing to public. But this time I faced this reality that I have to do something that is not usual thing that I was doing. So everything in this project is staged. Only women are real. During the project, I used some colors and objects that really related to the subject and to the women's daily life. And I used a lot of materials but for covering women's faces. Actually, the also very interesting moment is that how these women worked with me and agreed to be covered with some pieces of clothes or something, because we were working a lot by making their stories as a metaphors, and how their stories can be shown metaphorically. Only some parts, for example, hands, are always open, that that is shown that these people are real. Sorry. So among with the portraits, I also built some stills, naturemorts, which are like metaphors of all narratives of their stories that they told me. And each image, each picture that you see now are very connected to the subject. I called this tentative title Red, Black, White, because all these three colors are always exist in this project. But I don't know, maybe it's going to be changed. I don't know. The project is still ongoing, and I'm very glad that I found this solution and approach how to talk about one subject photographically. So besides my photographic work and career, it's been like 10 years. This year will be 10 years that I'm sharing big part of my my life, my work with 4Plus, as I'm one of the co-founders. And 4Plus documentary photography. 4Plus is the documentary photography center, and we started 4Plus in 2012 with two other female photographers, Anay Tayrapetyan and Danush Babajanyan. Because at the time, we were thinking that Armenian documentary photography field is not developed well, and also we had our concerns as a female photographers, and then we decided to engage and to engage our power and established 4+. In the beginning, it was like initiative, and in 2015, it was registered as an organization. So the first thing was that we wanted to help empower many female photographers and give a chance them to be exhibited, to be shown, to be promoted, because we see that many female photographers they're working in a long-term documentary projects, and they can work for years but never have exhibition or never be published in website. But also the main mission till now is to make everything that is possible to promote documentary photography in Armenia, because Armenian photography was very powerful and impactful during all years, but the opportunities for the photographers were not so much. So we opened a lot of exhibitions. This one from the first exhibition in 2013, which was called Mother Armenia, with big O, like mother, but other Armenia. And this was first time that 10 female photographers were being exhibited in one space by international curators, Svetlana Bachiranova, and so many topics were presented at this exhibition. And the same year, we have 4+ photo days. In 4 days, we opened 4 personal exhibitions of 4 female photographers. So many exhibitions, like 10 exhibitions we opened during these 10 years. This photograph is from last year. This is at 4+, this is our space, and we opened a very intimate and beautiful exhibition at our place of Mariam Shahinyan. Mariam Shahinyan was one of the first female studio photographer working in Istanbul, and Anahit Ghazarian, who is a writer and researcher, collected her photographs, and we had this chance to show at 4+. It was amazing because only in the opening we had like 19 and more people, and after that, like during 3 weeks, people were coming and coming. So yeah, 10 exhibitions and 13 more lectures, workshops. The education is also one of our how to say, this is that part after that I was saying that I am forgetting English.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Education is also in our priority, was always in our priority, and we were do a lot of workshops with the famous photographers and editors for our photographers, like Yuri Kozyrev, Andrei Polikanov, Eric Grigoryan for the beginners. And we are we are also, for Palace photographers, always doing workshops um, for the beginners. For example, in several regions, cities, in Armenia, in Artsakh, we were doing several workshops. These are photos, how we were doing. And this year we decided to open school because during these 10 years, we see like how the interest from the young people grown towards to photography, but they don't have enough skills to continue and to work on their personal stories or projects. And actually, there is a big interest to analog photography in Armenia, and we have like opened two laboratories recently, which are like developing and scanning films like every day. But the thing is that young people use photography as a fun, as a hobby, and analog photography. So to have a new educated and trained young generation, we decided to open Patker photography school. Patker in English means image. And actually we bring this word from Ruben Mangasaryan, who was our mentor. And there was a time that Ruben opened Patker agency, which had like short life. But we like this word because in the inside of this program, we decided to not just include how to learn photography technique, or like how to tell stories, but also how to visually think. So visual thinking and visual storytelling is two important things that we are going to teach young photographers. But there will be also photography history. We have 4 invited lectures that will teach about photography, exploration and criticism, and text writing, which is the main challenging things still in Armenia for photographers. Many photographers, really amazing photographers, but can't write like very simple descriptions or captions for their stories. Also, interesting thing that we have one invited mentor who will teach students how to read photographic texts, essays, and philosophical texts, and how to understand and learn what is written about photography. So we have many applications, and still the call is open. It closes on Monday, I guess. After that, we will made the selection, and hopefully in the beginning of the May, we will start our school. And I think one of the really great things is that during this course, people will learn how to start project, the story, how to develop it, and how to edit it. So 3 photographers, me, Pirza Khalapian, and Varina Ghazarian, will be the core mentors, and will work with these young photographers. I think the one of the big achievements also was establishing our website, 4plus.org, which was in 2017, and we established it because there wasn't a place that we can show our stories. As I mentioned before, photographers can work like for months, for years in one story, and there are no publications that are interested to collaborate with photographers or publish their stories and also pay them for honorarium. So we tried a lot to find funding, and finally we get some small funding and opened 4plus.org. We have many sections in the menu. We have stories, we have multimedia stories. We have done a lot of projects and joint projects, group projects with other photographers. You can see like more than 20 photographers were working with us, collaborating, and we published like so many stories here. Through the website, I'm working with the photographers in a different projects. One more thing added in our work is like editing and helping photographers to develop their stories, because me and Pirza, we were like always in touch with the photographers, just discussing their ideas and editing with them and working. That period we were also working very closely with the text editor, with the web designer. So whenever you have chance, you can go to the website and see what kind of projects we have. Also, we were doing a lot of publications. For example, postcards from Artsakh, which was one of the favorites of people. And we do a lot of presentation, what we published. In 2020, we published photography and history book, which was great collaboration with the diaspora and with Mark Nishanyan, philosopher, who translated to Western Armenian the famous essays and articles of Walter Benjamin. And it's Western Armenian and it's beautiful. And it was a really great collaboration with Mark. And you see.
Yeah, Nazik, I'm sorry. For time purposes, do you mind if we slowly transition to questions?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm just yeah,
Great.
I'm just finishing. Yeah.
All right, great.
And also we are publishing some other things like the zine, which lately connected with the clothes. because we opened also 4+ shop where we sell our products, our books, prints, and art objects. And this is place, 4-room apartment where 4+ is living, exhibiting, and working. If you come in Yerevan, please visit us. And from this year, we will start professional printing of photography, which was like a dream for us. Okay, I finished, and I hope it was interesting.
Thank you so much, Nazik. Thank you so much. It's such very powerful photographs, I have a lot of questions. I know that folks have a lot of questions. For everyone, feel free to ask your questions in the chat, and we will pass them along I will pass them along to Nazik. So Nazik, what I wanted to start with, I wanted to kind of I wanted us to maybe get a sense from you, briefly, a kind of a historical overview. I mean, how would you describe photography in Armenia during the Soviet era and in the post-Soviet era? Can you maybe just give us a brief kind of your kind of take on, because photography has been such a major part. I think sometimes we don't understand, or we don't realize that both in Armenia and globally, how involved Armenians have been in the art of photography, whether it's photojournalism, whether it's portrait studios, whether it's art photography. So in terms of Armenia, can you maybe tell us a little bit in the Soviet period and now in the post-Soviet period, the differences or similarities or challenges? Or
what I can say is from my personal experience and what I personally think, because I think in both periods there were and there are a lot of great photographers, and photography is always always working in Armenia. I mean, people are really interested in photography. At the Soviet time, it was like mainly it was used from like many people, not just photographers, professional photographers. And there are some very there are unseen like archives that we have to discover and see. In both times, we don't have places to be shown. People don't know, and there are no iconic photographs. Even there was a war covered, there was an earthquake covered, like a few photographs that people can say and recognize that these are that photographs, that what happened. So I assume that there is big archive which is unseen. And I think it's we have to find ways to create the space where can be photographs from very different photographers and periods to be collected and then shown.
Yeah. So it's interesting. In keeping with that, I know that I when I was living in Armenia and I began to know of your work and the other photographers at 4+, and knowing, you know, as someone in education over there, it was very, the minute I arrived in Armenia, it was kind of very obvious that the kind of situation of Armenian women. So, and for you to make these incredible, brave choices that you make in terms of your subjects, I think that and I think others are curious as well. I mean, when you did the series on the transgender community or the women with HIV, do you ever get harassed, or are you ever, not just you, but other photographers, let's say from 4Plus or other women photographers in Armenia, when you all try to do these more projects where you're kind of questioning a little bit, or just trying to, as you say, trying to make something seem that has been invisible for a long time, but it exists. When you do that kind of work, do you ever get harassed, or are you ever mistreated, or I mean, what's that process like?
Yes. I mean, it happened with the second project, with the Stamp of Loneliness, and I really met aggression and hate from different layers of society. And I lost a lot of friends and people.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, people were saying that don't do that. Don't put your last name with this. But I think it was the hardest time because my relatives, my family, me personally were like on attack. And so many things happened at that time. I just closed everything, like social media and everything, and didn't give any interview. But I had some depression at that time. But I realized that this was my photography project. I become more strong photographer. And I have to do what I feel is important to do. And nothing matters.
Yeah, no, and you know, I just realized, I mean, it's the title of the project is Stamp of Loneliness, of these the subjects in the photographs, but really in a way it applies to you as well, right? I mean, I think anywhere in the world, I think artists and people trying to tell stories that might bother some people, it's a lonely act. I mean, we accept that as artists, as photographers, musicians, poets, whatever it might be. But I think it's and again, having you know, I'm not from Armenia. I only spent not that, you know, 6-7 years, not that long. But even in that period, I mean, if I, as a man and an outsider, I felt that trying to push a little more substantive cultural work there is very lonely. And so I can only imagine for you, who is from there, who's a woman, who's a parent, who is a part of society. As you say, I mean, your friends, you have colleagues, you have a whole network, obviously, your life there. And when you try to do this kind of work, I think it's important for people to understand the risk people like you take. In other parts of the world, it really wouldn't be, it would still be an interesting project, but not, you know, it wouldn't have these elements that it takes on in places like Armenia. And I think that's very important. Both.
But it also changes, you know, Arto,
Yeah,
it changes
good.
people, because whenever people say, one time they said, why you photograph these people very gently? We feel like it's drama, but they are like disgusting. And one people say that we feel that some mother's approach, but even people react like very negatively, but they understood, they see images which will change in their minds, you know?
Yes. Yep. I think that's very important as well. That two things can be true at the same time. I think in the Armenian world, we sometimes have a problem with this basic concept. As
Mhm.
much as it can be difficult and as much as it can be challenging, at the same time, there are pockets of change. There are people who are thinking differently. There are people having these discussions. There are people. So I absolutely, I think that's very important because otherwise it becomes a bit of a kind of a darkness, but in that darkness, there's always little elements of light that you also have to be aware of, because that's the whole point of doing the kind of work that you do. Um, I was gonna, so, earlier you mentioned you said between the Soviet and post-Soviet period, you said
Mhm.
there's probably like an unseen archive,
Mhm.
and so I wanted to ask you, I mean, obviously, as Project Save being a photography archive, um, this is something I ask every one of our guests on in this series. What is in Armenia? What is the condition or the status of photography archives? I mean, in Armenia, for example, is there a photography archive that has a wealth of images, or is it just part of the national archives, and what conditions are they in?
How much I aware, the National Archive has like amount of photographs and some news agencies like Armen Press, Photolur, they have like huge photographic archives, and other photographers' archives are like very individually keeping. I can't say anything.
Mhm.
And there are some individuals that really working on collecting
Mhm.
and making collections, which are like personal collections.
Mhm.
But to say that there is a like institution who is really working and taking care of photographers' archives, there is no.
Mhm.
Some years ago, after 2018, we a lot of photographers and curators were invited to culture of ministry to discuss this question. So we discussed it 2 times, but nothing changed. I
Mhm.
mean, um, I don't know, this is really urgent and important questions to be resolved, but I don't know how. For
Right.
example, at the 4+, we are doing the digital archiving and captioning and texting, everything, photographs, but still, how it should be kept, by whom,
Mhm. Mhm.
where, these are questions that still
Right.
no answer.
Right. Well, hopefully, I mean, that creates a possibility. I know that and I'm sure our archivists at Project, we would be very happy to, connect with any institutions there to talk about preservation, proper archival preservation techniques, and so forth. I mean, that I think uh, that would be wonderful to have that dialogue. Um, uh, Two questions for you, Nazik, about
Yeah,
the HIV project. Um,
yeah.
One, and they're different, but they're related. One is, you mentioned that in that project, there's a metaphorical aspect to those photographs, and you're kind of creating a setting. You have the face coverings, you have certain set pieces. So there's a certain spatial composition, obviously, that you have in mind. Um, so one question is, like, can you talk about your artistic approach to those compositions? One, and two, um, in that series, the women that you were photographing, I mean, obviously, as difficult as it was for you as the photographer, they being people that are challenged with this illness that they can't talk about, and that they're kind of invisible, as you said. Did they feel like, did they resist the project? Did they not want to sit for you, to pose for you? Did they eventually feel like, oh, okay, like someone sees me, finally someone cares, and someone, I'm no longer invisible?
Yeah. First of all, I work before the photography process. I work with women. I interview them 1 or 2 times. We meet and talk, just talk, and I introduce what I'm doing, how I'm working, and then we go the place, and I'm introducing how I will photograph them. Of course, there are moments, especially the time when I'm covering their face. It's a bit scary, and for me and for them. But I'm trying to really be connected with them, and it is important that they agree, that they trust and give me access to make it. Because I have this experience already to work with people, and I really appreciate building relationship before the photography. I mean, this is the most important thing, that not photography but relationship, because if you don't have relationship, it will be just click.
Right.
And it one time before it goes to our website, the stories, I was invited to the organization, and I had a presentation for several women with HIV. I show my project, my photographs, and most of the women whom I photographed were seated there. So after this presentation, many women came and said, "Can I be photographed?" And after it published on our website, one of the women called me next day, and she said, "I want to say 2 great things." I said, "Yes." So no one recognized me. And the second thing, that I feel free. I said, "Free from what?" So even no one recognized, and I'm photographed without face, I feel freedom. Yeah.
Amazing.
So it's important to be in touch always. And also, I mean, for me, it's very important, even people don't know nothing about photography, that they understand why I'm taking these pictures, why in this way. Because now I'm also working on a project, and I'm photographing with a very old, large format camera to soldiers who were burned during the Artsakh War. So it's also taking long to describe and them why I'm taking photographs in this way. What will this way stay? Where it will be shown? Where it will be published? I mean, honestly and honesty and building relationships. So it's important.
And so with that, how would you describe your approach? I mean, your artistic approach. So whether it's the kind of set pieces you did in the HIV series, or maybe some of the street photography you've done. What's kind of your artistic approach when it comes to composition? Is that something kind of like at the front of, or is it something instinctual, or do you put a lot of planning into the kind of spatial composition and the?
I love I mean, during the photojournalistic work, I was just following what I see and how I feel. But for example, for the projects, in the beginning, it was instinctively, intuitively to creating concepts, which can be like not just frame, but framing but also colors, mm, maybe objects, details, continuation. I love frontal photography, frontal and direct, which is like how it opened into me, how I see. But for example, for the HIV project, I really it's kind of like storyboarding, because I really think about each image, about sequencing, about building the narrative. So it's a bit like movie.
Yeah, I was thinking it's in that series. I was thinking, my background is in poetry and music, and I think that, yeah, there's something going on in those images where, because you are adding an element of artistry in terms of props and the face covering and certain poses. In other words, you're staging them in many ways. I think there's something those particular images I find very, very poetic, in the sense that, just like poetry, something that is kind of unspeakable is being revealed. The whole point of poetry is that it's trying to grasp at something that we can't quite say. And I find that in those images, I felt that kind of a force, that through the staging and the colors and the face covering and the whatever props might be used, and even the fact, as you say, like only their hands are visible, all of these elements, it's kind of trying to get at something, as you like through metaphor, in a way, trying to get at something that's so hard to talk about because it's not talked about in society there. And I think that's, yeah, I think that's a very interesting maneuver, artistic maneuver, photographic maneuver on
Yes,
your part, to be able to tell
I
that.
was thinking, I was thinking to title the naturemorphs, the still lifes, silences, because each naturemorph is about a story of one woman and about keeping in silence. For example, I photographed the doll with the flowers. It's a bride doll. So during the Soviet time, people put a bride doll on the car, but the ancient time, from the traditional narratives, people gave as a gift to the bride doll, and saying her that if there will be difficulties in the beginning, just talk with the doll, because the doll doesn't have mouth. So I'm reading and researching so many this kind of stories that are really connected and related to the stories of these women.
Yeah.
And yeah,
No,
the
go ahead.
images are coming.
Right, right. I mean, so I'd like to kind of pivot a little bit. I mean, you know, you've photographed these women who are in these very challenging, difficult, and marginalized situations.
Yeah.
At the same time, you are a woman in Armenia. You're a mother, family. Can you maybe talk a little bit what it's been like for I know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to kind of ask a you can
No, it's
answer
okay.
any way you want, but for you, and because the fact that 4 Plus was started as a female photography collective, I think is very important. And as far as I know, I think a number, not just yourself, but a number of the other photographers are mothers. They have families. What has it been like for you all, especially, um, there was such hopefulness in 2018. And,
Mm.
I remember that time. That's a once in a lifetime kind of experience that we all went through there. And there was so much hopefulness. And then with the war in 2020, can you maybe talk a little bit about what, as photographers, but also as mothers, as women in Armenia trying to do this work, challenging work that you do? Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Mm. I think it is true that many of us are mothers, wives, and have so many responsibilities besides the photography. But I think we found that way to empower each other and to others, and we are strong with this. I mean, we are really strong with this. When I remember what was during the Artsakh war, I mean, my son was there, and I every day went to the office and I said, no one is crying, we are working. But of course, we were crying during the day, and we were crying collectively. We were thinking how to help each other and others. I don't know. I don't remember. I mean, I can't remember anything that before 2020.
Mhm,
It's interesting.
mhm,
Everything is gone. So we have now a situation which is really different, and it doesn't mean that we don't have hope or I mean, for me, the biggest struggle of being mother if you have son. So this is really big question. When you have son and army is mandatory and you are always on the fear what will happen. I couldn't do anything related to my son when he was serving at the army, and when he went to the war. It's really a personal drama for each woman. I really hope that this question will be solved and we will live not thanks to 18 years old young man.
right. It's interesting how you say that, because I kind of, I feel that way too, and I wonder if that's that idea that it's almost like it's hard to remember before 2020. And I think that in the Armenian context, because of the war, I think that that's true. I think also in the global context, uh, because of the pandemic, and how strange that was, how traumatizing it was. how difficult it was for so much, the major shift that's happened globally because of that. And all the various kind of the war in Armenia, now the war in Ukraine, and different global tensions. I think there's something there that for a lot of people globally, there's some cognitive dissonance pre-2020 and post-2020. And would you say that maybe now more than ever, that's exactly why photography is important? You know, it's in these kinds of times that expression and discourse through art, whether it's the visual arts, whether it's music, poetry, theater, whatever it might be. Would you say that maybe now more than ever, the kind of work you do, it takes on a whole other kind of importance?
Sure. I mean, it's really important to not keep silence, because I mean, now For Plus is working on one project, which is Aftermath project, and 6 photographers work with the 6 stories. In May, it will be finished and published in our website. So it's a stories of new borders. It's a stories of mothers who lost their sons. It's a stories of challenging houses, challenging places, burned soldiers. It's stories of what it means to be Armenian man. Just a man. So story of Artsakhtsi who lost everything for several times. So in one moment we were just like shocked and just like, you know, we couldn't move, we couldn't think. But then we realized that who else should we tell the stories? Ethically,
Right.
Not just telling, not just doing reportages and showing like crying people,
Right,
but
not sensationalizing it.
not sensational, from distance, and just with understanding that what we really want to raise with these stories, there should be hope. Because these people who lost, people who were burned, who lost everything, how they should continue living. We have to take care of them, and with our images, because our images is the way that more people will learn these stories. Because photographers are bridges. They're like going to the people's places, gathering, photographing, and taking this to the other side of bridge, to viewers.
I'm gonna wrap up with 2 very quick questions, because I know it's late in Armenia, and
No, it's okay.
thank you.
I feel better.
Oh, good. It's so fascinating, and so inspirational. One question was, there was talk of a photography museum in Gyumri. Do you know anything about that?
No.
Or no? Okay.
No.
Okay. The other question was, if people want to support 4Plus,
No.
are they able to donate? If they want to support you financially or whatever, can they donate through the website, or do you guys have a mechanism for that? Like through a nonprofit, like set up or anything?
Yeah, of course, they can donate. We wanted to make something, but it doesn't work on our website, but they can just connect by email.
Yeah.
And actually, this is one of the challenging things in Armenia for working photographers and people who are working with the cultural aspects, like funding, the most challenging thing, because for example, if you are not like related to any political party or something, or you are just you wanted to be independent and realize that projects that you want, you feel that it's important, you will not find funding.
Yeah. I mean, I hope, and maybe for the participants today, I mean, I do hope that eventually, you know, Project Save wants to, you know, we've been doing this so long, and we want to be able to partner with, or to be helpful, if we can, with organizations like 4Plus, with other Armenian photographers around the world, or other photographic initiatives, where we can somehow, through our resources or through our network, and so all of these years of experience, we can hopefully be helpful to people like yourself. I think it is important that, as you say, these bridges, there are ways that different organizations can work together to lift each other up, you know.
I mean, this will be great to have any collaboration with the diaspora in Armenia, because I think it's really time now to use all our like backgrounds, our languages, identity, everything, our experiences. We have to connect, not just donate or something, but work with each other.
That's
you know, this is really important, to work with each other.
Not everything is, exactly. Not everything is just about writing a check. Those days, I think, are over. There has to be much more substantive discussion and honesty and collaboration if we actually want there to be progressive change, not just kind of superficial kind of things. I want to end with a comment. A dear friend, Kevorki Mirzian, who himself is a wonderful photographer and a dear friend to me, and a friend to Project Save. But Kevork says, Nazik, I'm a long-time follower of your work, and I commend you and your colleagues at 4Plus for your courage, vision, and commitment. You bring a unique perspective and a special sensitivity to the projects you present to the public. You're such a gift to Armenia.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Nazik, thank you so much, Nazik, for your time. I'm so moved, and just wonderful, so inspirational. I thank everyone for joining us today. We will be sharing news of our next Conversations on Photography series in May. In the meantime, I encourage all of you to visit 4plus.org, support them, be in touch with them, reach out to them. You, of course, feel free to reach out to us at projectsave.org. We are always open to collaborations, questions, and of course, organizations like 4Plus and like Project Save, they can't happen long term without support. So we thank you all very, very much. And I hope everyone has a good weekend. Nazik, again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Arthur,
for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
It was special for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Merci, Nazik. Barik Shet.